What makes a great platforming game? I can explain it to you. I can understand the intricacies and the mechanics, and I can explain them in depth. But the simple reality is that the vast majority of the population doesn't know. They don't care about platformers. They spend all their time downplaying the genre because it is a mainstay on Nintendo platforms. We saw this last year with Super Mario Bros. Wonder. We saw how many people tried to come out and say that like Mario Wonder wasn't Game of the Year worthy because oh it's a platformer and platformers are for children. Oh, that was the cope, right? That was the justification for why Mario Wonder was treated so badly upon release. And here we are, last week for a solid 3 or 4 days, all anybody could talk about was like, oh, Astrobot, it's game of the year, it's game of the year. Like, oh, like we've never played a game like this before, and more people are like looking at gameplay footage and realizing that like, wow, that's from Super Mario Sunshine, that's from Super Mario Galaxy, right? There is no originality or fresh creative ideas in Astrobot. It is completely 100% plagiarized from better Nintendo games. And PlayStation owners, first of all, don't admit that. But secondly, they have the audacity to come out and try to say that Astrobot is better than Mario. They tried, in the early stages of Astrobot Cope to say that Astrobot was better than Mario games and that it was selling more. That is what this video is about today because the numbers have come in. Like we've gotten our Famitsu sales numbers. We've seen how much Astrobot has sold, right? And it is not impressive. 12,000 units across all of Japan. 12,000. When you compare that to like Super Mario Bros. Wonder or Pokemon or like Kirby and the Forgotten Land or like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate or like any of these other better games that Astrobot was supposedly better than, you see a very strong stark contrast between real games, games made by people who actually respect and understand the platforming genre and what makes video games, specifically Nintendo games, great versus like a PlayStation copy and paste job. Like it is embarrassing how quickly the Astrobot thing fell off. But what's even worse is that so many people bought into the hype and the hysteria from day one, right? Like again, this game is like what, like 8 hours long? For like 100% completion, right? When you compare that to like Super Mario Bros. Wonder's 30, I think it took me about 30. When you compare that to like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate being like basically endless, Splatoon being endless, Pikmin 4 was like what, 30? That was on the shorter side, right? Like again, there are shorter Nintendo games, but they do a lot more original creative things than Astrobot does, right? What does Astrobot do that these other Nintendo games don't? And the simple reality is that it's a PlayStation exclusive, right? That's the only reason Astrobot had the publicity and hype. And honestly, considering just how like unified the community was in like shilling for Astrobot for the first couple of days, I do think Sony put a lot of money into paying for YouTubers to hype this up, to present this as a Mario killer. Like, look at how great our IPs are, guys. But it isn't true. And what's even more startling is that Astrobot was sandwiched between two massive PlayStation Ls, right? The release of Concord and the announcement of the PS5 Pro, right? Two massive blunders that like gaming journals were not able to control or apprehend. And now that the Astrobot hype is dying down a lot, it's safe to say that PlayStation is on the way out. There isn't going to be a renaissance, right? I saw a lot of people say this, like, "Oh, Astrobot is the greatest PlayStation 5 exclusive." That's like saying that, like, oh, uh, It's just ridiculous, right? Like it's just ridiculous that anybody could like say that about the PS5, a console that has no games, right? Again, like, oh, it's the best exclusive on the console, but what else are you playing? And that's like that's the thing that's really dawned on me over the past year because I said like last year like this would be like a period of like the biggest period of PlayStation 5's relevancy ever, right? They were putting out all these big AAA games. They were putting out all these bangers, marketing all this stuff. They had all these IPs. This was going to be their glorious last stand, right? This was a make it or break it moment. And not only did they not make it, they broke it so badly that they can't possibly recover from this. Like, it's so bad, right? And the Astrobot, I think, is a really good indication of why. Like, again, you can't just pay YouTubers to tell people that like your game is the greatest thing ever and expect to have any real results from that, right? Astrobot's failure to perform really strongly demonstrates that. You know, I made the comparison when this thing first started coming out. It reminds me of what they did with Knack, right? It's the same exact behavior, it's the same exact mentality. It's like demonize Nintendo products, you know, attack Mario, try to make what Knack out to be something special, and what happens? It's immediately forgotten about. Except for people like me who still bring up how ridiculous that was like a decade later, right? Again, Knack went on to become a meme because it tried to take on Mario and it failed, right? Like it tried to innovate and it tried to do these things and it just couldn't succeed, right? There was nothing that Sony could do to make Knack a success. And I do think Astrobot is a really good example of just like how how that mentality still exists today in the company and in its fans, right? They legit thought that releasing a console at $700 was going to go over well with their fans. They really thought that people would buy into Concord. They really thought that people would continue supporting them no matter what. And I think it's safe to say at this point that that simply isn't going to happen, right? PlayStation is just it's just become a shell of its former self, right? Like it's everything's declining, nothing's going well, the audience is going broke, you know, they can't pay for all these trinkets, and the company is just slowly eroding. And this is a Nintendo dominant future. Like anybody who says that like PC gaming is going to pick up the slack from this is completely delusional, right? Because it's PlayStation and Xbox that's subsidizing the AAA studios, right? Without them, the AAA games on PC don't get made and they don't become successful, right? What you're going to see is that PlayStation and Xbox will collapse and that will result in this massive power vacuum where like Nintendo just completely monopolizes the entire industry. Like, and again, everyone's going to try to do what they always do and like try to incorporate like some kind of new weird technology. You know, like they've been doing this for a long time. You know, going to iPhones. You know, pushing NFTs. Like anything other than supporting Nintendo consoles. But they can't do it. Like they have lost, right? Nintendo has won the console war, and I think we are set for a very successful Nintendo Switch successor reveal event in the future, right? Right, in the next year or so. Like it's going to be really, really interesting to see what Nintendo does and just how badly that Sony PlayStation will not be able to compete.